Andarki namaskaram, welcome back to Vamsi Bhavani. If you haven't watched Prompt Engineering Part 1 yet, please watch this before watching Prompt Engineering Part 2. To look at summary of Prompt Engineering Part 1, it was more around LLMs or in general Gen AI models. So we said that the quality of the input that you give to the Gen AI model determines the quality of output, right? So if we give good input, right, we can expect good outputs. Now, what do you mean by good output? So every time you ask AI something, you have some requirement already in your mind. So if you're able to fulfill at least 70 to 80% of your initial requirement, we can say that the output is good. So we said that good inputs usually, bring us good outputs if the training is really great, right? Again, training plays a major role, but yeah, if training was great, then good input usually, gives us good output. And the way of, or technique of, or just the mechanism of writing good inputs is called prompt engineering. Why is it called so? Because the input that you give to a Gen AI or in general a AI model is called a prompt, right? Make sense? Great. Now, when you think about learning prompt engineering, you are actually learning to talk to AI. Now, when you talk about Gen AI, you can talk to Gen AI models in two main ways. One is via UI and one is via APIs. I'll discuss both of that. But first of all, talking about the UI aspect, most of us are already, well known with this. Now, when I say ChatGPT, what image does, pop up in your mind? It's that chat window where you have a text box, a button, and you enter your, input here, send this, click this, send the message, and then AI replies you back, right? This is the image. Now, this is what the UI I'm talking about. Here, you're just asking your question in the UI, and again using a UI element called button, and clicking that is sending your input to ChatGPT's backend, right? And this backend is then giving you a response that you again see on the UI screen, right? So here there is nothing more than you typing a input, typing a question, and clicking that send button. Now, this is what is called the UI interaction with Gen AI. UI based interaction. You're actually talking to Gen AI models using the UI that the company is providing you. Now, this is second way, which is directly interacting with this backend instead of going via the company provided UI. Why is this important? Let's say I am creating a food delivery website or food delivery app, right? So in this food delivery app, let's say I want a AI chatbot feature so that it actually replies to the customer's queries directly without any human involvement. Let's say that's the requirement, right? So in this case, would you ask your customer, okay, guys, you have a question, right? Okay, just go to www.soandso.com, ask a question there, get the response, and come back to my app. Can you see that? Definitely not, right? So you need the chat experience integrated in your app or in your website. So that's where you do not use the UI provided by the company directly. Instead, you use the company's backend, which is the core where these responses are coming from, right? And that backend is accessed via APIs, right? What is the API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. So what happens is each of the core functionality of the backend is exposed at an endpoint that you can hit and get the response directly from the backend. So that's what is API at a big picture level. Now, majority of actual developers use APIs more than UI. So there are two ways of actually, getting accompanied with AI in 2024 or going forward. And that is way number one, building AI. Way number two, using AI, right? When you're building AI, it doesn't really mean that you're building a model, but you're building stuff in and around AI, right? That's where you use APIs, and this is mostly used if you are a developer or if you're building something. But let's say I just want to, provide AI services and earn money out of that. I'm starting an agency which provides AI images, but for that I need not build my own model. I can use existing models, use it via UI, and then get things done and provide the output to my customers and make money out of it. Both are profitable, both are good ways, but yeah, in the way number one, you use APIs, way number two, you use UI, right? We'll look into both of it and we'll see the core differences of how you use it. So firstly, yeah, this is the UI interface for the well-known ChatGPT, and this is the well-known interface for Gemini, right? Now APIs are usually just a endpoint. It's just a URL that you hit with a specific HTTP method. That's it. But before trying out that in your code, it's always useful to actually test that API in a playground scenario, right? In a sandbox scenario. That's what most of these, LLMs or actual API providing model companies provide you with a, it's called a playground or sandbox, depends on companies to companies, but usually they provide you an environment where you can test these APIs. Similarly, for ChatGPT and Gemini, you have these sandboxes, you have these, playgrounds. For OpenAI, for ChatGPT, it's called platform.openai.com/playground, and for Gemini, it's called aistudio.google.com, right? So these are actually playgrounds where you can actually, figure out different things on what are the different parameters that you can use along with the API. So APIs are more, flexible and customizable in terms of how you actually interact with it than the UI part, right? So because of that, you can make the outputs much more deterministic than the UI part, because in UI, it's not really a fully controlled thing because you cannot give all the inputs. Again, I was talking about ChatGPT and Gemini, but it's similar to anything, right? You see a lot of models these days on Discord servers. Even those are UI based. Again, you're just interacting with Discord's UI. Again, those same companies will give you APIs as well. That's the second way, directly interacting with the model's backend. Got it? Now, when you interact with LLMs on a high level, there are few things, few configurable parameters that you can tweak to make your responses furthermore better by making the input more flexible. Let's discuss that. So these are called LLM settings or Gen AI model settings. First of all, you usually choose a model, right? For example, if you're using ChatGPT, OpenAI. So these are different models from which you can choose from. Similarly in Gemini, these are different models from which you can choose from, right? So usually, first of all, you choose a model. That's what this model setting is. Then you have temperature. Temperature is a parameter or setting using which you can tweak with the creativity of the model. If the temperature is low, it is actually a low creative model, which means it sticks to the data in the training. So it is more deterministic, right? So if there are logical questions or questions that are factual, you should always use low temperature. But let's say you want to get, artistic responses. You want to write a movie story using a LLM. Then always temperature should be high, because there the determinism will decrease, but at the same time creativity will increase, right? By determinism, let's say, I'm just giving an example. Let's say in the training dataset, after is, there's always a in the training dataset, right? So there are high chances that with a low temperature, after every is, there would be a. Just a vague example, but that's how it is. So if you want to infer more from the training dataset, temperature has to be low, and vice versa for high, right? Similarly, you have one more setting which is called top P. This also deals with creativity. There's something called probability mass. We can discuss this in a separate video, but yeah, it deals with more around this. So the recommendation is either tweak top P or tweak temperature, right? And see what gives you better results. Again, that's a recommendation from almost all LLMs that, do not tweak both temperature and top P at the same time. Tweak one of them at one time, see what works better and use that. Don't tweak both of them. You can tweak that. It's not a, hard restriction, but recommendation is that don't tweak both of them together. Then you have maximum length. As the name says, you can restrict the maximum length of the output that the AI model is generating for you, right? Similarly, there's one more, model setting which is called stop sequence. In maximum length, you are defining or mentioning the length, but here you're saying after so and so word, just stop it. So you're giving it a stop sequence of, tokens at which it has to stop. Make sense? Then you have frequency penalty and presence penalty. There might be times that you have observed interacting with ChatGPT that it's repeating usage of a word a lot. Probably it's using good, a word called good, a lot. Let's say, for example, and that is making your output seem a little, low quality, right? So what you can say is, I'll put up a frequency penalty saying that, if this same word comes 20 times, the penalty will increase, and the model will always make sure that the penalty is low. So it will always try to generate more unique words, more unique sequences of tokens than reusing, already used tokens in the output. So using frequency penalty, you can actually reduce the repetition of words in your specific output. Then you have presence penalty. Now there's a small difference between this, where in frequency penalty, if A and B are two words, this is coming 10 times, this is coming 20 times. The frequency penalty for A would be less than frequency penalty of B, just because B is occurring more number of times than A. But in presence penalty, both A and B will have equal penalty. It's just that is this particular word appearing or not. Got it? That's how these penalties work. Then you have output format. Again, few LLMs give you this. Even if they don't provide, you can just mention in the prompt that, I want the output in JSON. I want the output in XML. I want the output in CSV, or, pointers. It's up to you. These are the few, LLM settings, Gen AI model settings. Again, it depends again, if it's a image generation model, there might be few other settings, but the documentation will always give you the right definition of those settings. So in this video, I just want to introduce you to those model settings. This is how they work, right? And finally, for this video, we'll discuss about prompt elements. So a good prompt always has an instruction, a context, a input, and a output indicator. For example, you want to summarize, right? Summarize a paragraph of 4 lines, right? 4 sentences. Instruction would be to summarize, right? Context would be, in what context do you want to summarize this? Do you want this to be interpreted by the legal team, by the sports team, or, not sports team, maybe by the creative team, by the developers team, right? Based on that, you can provide the context. Let's say I want it for the legal team. So that would be the context, right? Then input data, which is these 4 sentences. Then output indicator. As I just said, you can define the type of output you want. Like, for example, it could be JSON, XML, or simply it could be like, legal team wants to interpret that in pointers. So it could just be pointers, right? So a good prompt could be summarize the following input data in pointers for the legal team's interpretation. As simple as that. But you always, having these 4 elements in your prompt makes it a good prompt. Got it? So in this video, we discussed pretty much good number of things. So this is it for part 2. Let's discuss more about different prompting techniques, like one-shot prompt, few-shot prompt, different techniques would be discussed in part to follow. Do subscribe to Vamsi Bhavani English if you haven't yet. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.